Welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm Kathleen Walter. The deaths of 2 U.S. soldiers killed when a man in an Iraqi army uniform opened fire highlight the danger our troops face in Iraq despite the formal end of combat operations announced by President Obama last week. Joining us from Washington is New York Times bestselling author and Newsmax correspondent Ron Kessler, who's written at great length for us on the Iraq War. Welcome back to Newsmax TV, Ron.
Great to be with you, Kathleen.
Ron, according to published reports, Iraqis are worried about their future without U.S. forces. To what extent do they need to be concerned about not only violence, but also about the stability or the future of their new government?
I think it's important to keep the violence in perspective. It's about 300 killings a month, and on an annual basis, that comes to about 22% of the murder rate in the U.S., although Iraq is a smaller country. I think that, as long as there's this perception that America is not going to stay in there, as it has in so many other countries in the world, that violence is going to continue. Of course, it'll help when they finally get a stable government and agreement, but they need the U.S. in there, and I just don't see what is the point of fighting this war and then turn it over to the other side at this point.
In your latest column, you point out that liberal commentators have declared the war pointless. We know of the war's human rights benefit for Iraqis, but had there been no invasion, where would we be today on the national security front?
Well, on the national security front, which of course is the most important thing, of course there were no WMD, but George Pirro, an FBI agent, debriefed Saddam for 7 months before his execution. And I wrote about this in my book, The Terrorist Watch, Inside the Desperate Race to Stop the Next Attack. And it basically has been ignored by the media because it just doesn't fit the narrative that the whole war was pointless and Bush was a demon and never should have gotten in there. Saddam, in these debriefings with George Pirro, admitted that yes, on the one hand, he was bluffing about WMD, and the reason was he wanted Iran to fear him, and what better way than if the Americans thought that he had WMD. And so he went through just how he would fake out the world. He would say, yes, the weapons inspectors could come in, but 8 palaces were off limits, just to create the impression that he did have WMD. Saddam admitted in these debriefings that within about a year he planned to resume his WMD program, including developing a nuclear weapon, because he believed that at that point sanctions would be lifted, in part because he was paying off UN officials. And so he very openly said that yes, he was planning to have a nuclear weapon. Well, is that what we want? Is that what we would have what we would be faced with if we did not have that invasion?
Did Saddam ever consider coming clean with the U.S. and demonstrating that he did not have weapons of mass destruction?
Pirro said that he never specifically asked that question in that way, but he did say that Saddam's whole shtick, if you will, his whole reason for being was to have his legacy as a great Arab leader remembered for hundreds of years. And in his view, being a great Arab leader meant taking on other countries, being macho basically, and this was one way to do it, even if he was taken out of power, that somehow he stood up to America by doing this, and so the answer is no, he never would have come clean about the fact that he did not have WMD.
Now let's talk about former President George W. Bush. Has he, in your opinion, received ample credit or just criticism for the war?
The media has erected Bush as the devil, and so its public opinion has swayed against Bush. Of course, there are some legitimate reasons as well, but no, he has not received credit. Obama, in a speech, never, in fact, pointed out that Bush made the right decision in going into Iraq, made the right decision in starting the surge, which was the key to winning in Iraq. But it's interesting, in many areas of the country, polls are showing that Bush is favored above Obama, as the person that people would most like to be in the White House.
All right, Newsmax correspondent Ron Kessler, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Kathleen. Thank you.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.